Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Expansive CEO podcast. We are going to talk about lots of things today, relationships being one of them. We're in a relationship kick, and I should introduce myself. If you're new to the podcast, I'm Hannah. My name is Hannah Chapman, founder of X Squared Wealth Planning and Expansive CEO. And this podcast is all about having alignment, bringing awareness to where we're out of alignment in business, in our lives, and building businesses, building lives, building financial security and stability that actually resonates with who you are as a person. So we also have our amazing, wonderful Lauren Ammon here with us as well, who's my awesome co-host who has her sort of like full human design analyst certification through the International Human Design School, because we use that as a important tool, not the only tool, but one really important tool to how we learn about ourselves, how we learn about each other, and how it affects our relationship with money, how it affects our relationships with other people, the whole gamut. Was that a good intro, Lauren? I don't know. I need to probably
Absolutely.
write one.
Well, the organized generator in me says, yeah, maybe. So that it's consistent, it's reliable, it's the same thing. People hear it over and over. But the other spontaneous generator of me is like, screw it. Whatever comes up that day is what comes up that day. And that's what we're all about. You said it so succinctly. This podcast is for the business owner, the professional, the person who is looking for more alignment in their lives, whether it is in their business, in their relationships, in their relationship to money, and just being able to find yourself in this podcast one way or the other. And we intentionally don't pigeonhole ourselves to one very specific thing every single time, because one, I think you and I would get bored as all get out. And two, that's just not how we work. And oftentimes we talk about what's top of mind, what's top of heart, what's top of energy. And this week, as you said, or maybe more than this week, is all about relationships and how we connect to one another, how we relate to one another. And sometimes the really sticky moments that need attention in order to keep moving forward as individuals and together as a partnership.
Yeah. Yes. And before we dive in even further, I want to mention the Substack subscription that we just launched this past week. So on July 29th, we launched the paid subscription to the Expansive CEO Substack. It has two different tiers. The first tier is $180 per year or $18 per month. And you get access to all of the paid content that we put out. And so that paid content is a lot more, rather than educational. So all of our free content, we want it to be educational. We want it to be uplifting. We want it to be, help you ask questions of yourself, right? To get you to know yourself better. But the paid content is really about what's actionable here. What can we give you that is like, okay, here's not just something to think about, but here's a way to try it out. What's the aligned action you can take? The framework that we use in Expansive CEO all the time is awareness, understanding what's happening, right? Becoming aware, acceptance, loving yourself through it, and then aligned action. What's the next step that you can take in this new direction now that you have this new awareness and that you've accepted that you're still a beautiful human worthy of love? Now what step can you take? So that is what the paid content is meant to help facilitate. And then we have a second tier called the founding members tier that is $360 per year or $36 per month, where you get all of that paid content, but you also get the Money Story meditation series, which is not available anywhere else. We have never made this available for sale as a grouping before. It's not anywhere. You're not going to find it. It's a full workbook with journaling prompts that go along with 6 different meditations that will take you on a journey through your relationship with money and prosperity from the time you were 10 years old all the way up to through your higher self, and understanding your relationship to prosperity. And then again, awareness, acceptance, aligned action, right? It's going to take you through the workbook, takes you through each step as you go through each meditation. So, super excited for that to be part of the founding members perks. And in addition to that, there's more. There's also a quarterly live event. So the first one will be in October 2026. And each quarter, we're going to have a live, probably, I don't know if it'll be on Zoom or Substack, somewhere where we can see each other, right? Where we can be in a virtual room together live. We'll go through a meditation that's appropriate for that time of the year, whatever's coming up, go through some live Q&A, and just kind of build community in that way as well. So I'm so excited. And Lauren, do you want to tell everyone about what is available already? Because
Yeah.
again, it's all about relationships right now.
Yes. So if you sign up for just the annual tier, what's available now are actually 3 episodes of what we're now calling $1,000,000 questions, where we go very in depth into very specific questions related to money. And we actually started with relationships. So the idea of when you are getting into your first long-term relationship, considering combining finances and the journey to optimize that, because that situation can be very sticky when you're thinking about coming together as 2 separate entities and you're bringing your finances together and everybody comes with their own money stories. And so we walk through very specific examples, not only how to address that, but things to consider as you go through that and how to make it more manageable and palatable, because it's not necessarily the most comfortable thing
Oh
to
no,
go through. Yeah.
no,
And if you
welcome.
yes, which we all talk about. And if you go through the founding members, you get all of what is already out there, because we have 3 episodes out already. So you can dive in. But if you're a founding member, you get that and the money story meditations right off the bat. And so you have the opportunity to start that journey, which is very transformative. And you have the opportunity to go through that one money story meditation at a time, or you can do what I did, because apparently I just needed to go through all of them back to back to back to back. And you kind of see the patterns of your money stories through different stages of your lives. And what was most captivating to me was the difference of how I viewed money at different stages in my life, and the aha moments of, oh my God, I see where that came from now, which is truly the transformative part of the journey. And then the journal just helps you, not just, the journal facilitates the deeper reflection and the deeper integration of, oh, I see where that money story came from. I'm not going to fix it overnight, but because I've raised my awareness of it, I've accepted that those happened in my life through no fault of my own. But now my aligned action is, while I may not have been the author of those money stories, I am the holder of those money stories. And every aligned action I take from here on out is driven by the awareness and acceptance of, okay, they're a part of who I am. Now I can make different choices when I approach money, when I approach even the interaction of money with other people is another thing that I've noticed, because that carries a lot of money stories as well. So it's all available right off the bat. You go over there. Even if you're a free subscriber, you have the opportunity to upgrade. And even if you get into the annual tier, you start at $18 a month and you're like, oh, I want to see those money story meditations, or I think that they would be very beneficial to me, then Substack does a really great job of, oh, it already knows that you paid for the annual tier. You can just then pay for the difference wherever you hit that in the middle of the year.
Yeah. Yes. I love that. I love that, the ability to shift, right? And make another choice. We're not locking you in, to anything. And again, those live events will be for the founding member tier
Yeah.
as well, which then you actually get live time with both of us and asking questions and kind of flowing with what the community needs at that time. We also have a chat, right? That's for subscribers, where we have that again more direct access to ask us questions. It could turn into $1 million question that we answer for everyone, if desired, or if you want to have, here, this part of my human design is like befuddling to me. Can you illuminate it? Right, like all of these things. We're so excited as two generators to respond to everything that the community has to ask. So
Yes.
go join us. Go join us on Expansive CEO Substack. Um, it's super fun. It's good.
Yes.
Anything else there? We hit it. What do we got?
No, I mean, Substack is just a really great platform, and I think it does a lot of. It's very different, and so if you go out there, you're new there, go poke around. You might find a lot of other content creators that resonate with you as well. I mean, we've certainly found some, and it only just helps build on what we do, and so it creates a great sense of community, and leads into this idea of relationships and why this is so top of mind for us.
hmm Yes. Yeah. So we touched on this subject a few weeks ago when we talked about the importance of your definition, of the responsibility that comes with the definition that you carry. That when you look, if you look at, go grab your human design chart, hit pause, go grab your chart, look at it, just take it in, right? You don't need to look at anything specific. Just see where your colors are lit up on your body graph. There are 9 centers, right? 1, 2, 3,
Yes.
4, 5, 6,
Yes.
7, 8, 9. Yep, got it. Look at your 9 centers and see which ones are colored in. That is your definition in your chart. And we talked about how you are responsible for understanding the energy that you carry into a room. When you step into any place, virtual, in person, coffee shop, workplace, with your kids, with your teachers, you carry that definition into the room with you. You impress upon others through the definition that you have. That's where I've seen one chart once that it was so interesting. I really liked it. It was like a web, like a spider web almost, and then
Yeah.
each center um, showed whether, like, in this area of your life where others impress upon you and the web like dips in, or where you impress upon others and your energy goes out. And so it was like this interesting visualization of like, yeah, these are the areas of life where you're feeling other people's energy really strongly. And these are the areas of life, your definition, where other people feel you as soon as you walk into a room. So if you go back, I think maybe 3 or 4 episodes
Yes.
that we talk about that, the responsibility you carry. And now we want to actually like bring that in even more specifically to relationships and relationships with people and relationships with money. So we're going to hit both of those topics. Um, with the express intent of, talking about, hey, if you want a different result than what you're currently experiencing with a person or people or with money, you have to make a different choice. So if what you're doing right now is working and you feel great and you're like, there's nothing that could possibly be better, everything is perfect, then maybe just go do something else for a while. I don't know.
Teach
Maybe
the
don't
rest of us.
right? I know, like, great, good for you. Um, truly, congratulations. But if you're like, no, everything's perfect. I don't need to know how I can relate either to other people better or to, money in a better way, then sure. Off you go. But if there is anything, a relationship, maybe a relationship with your spouse or partner, or your kids, important, like a partner, a business partner, if there's an important relationship in your life, we'll start there. And it's feeling crunchy. or you don't feel good when you leave interactions, right? Or you don't feel like you're showing up as your best self. Like when you're with this person, you're just like, man, it's really hard for me to stay patient. I'll give an example from my own life. All about transparency here. So my children are 15, 13, and 11. They're different, similar to me in some ways and different to me in other ways. My older two are, my oldest is a manifesting generator like me, but she has emotional authority, which is different from me. My second, my middle child, is a pure generator, also emotional authority. So we've got stuff going on there with our emotional versus sacral authority. But then my youngest is a splenic projector. She's very different energy. And there are parts of her definition that really kind of, I want to say, clash a little bit with my own. And there are times where I feel like my fuse, my patience with her, I don't yell. That is not my MO, but I can feel my own patience. Like I just don't have it. Like it just is non-existent. And so when those things happen, when I feel like I have to give her more grace than I'm giving her right now. I need to be able to be more patient with her than I'm being right now. I need to be able to uh, show up with, like, again, like my purpose being like, I'm here to help others learn how to love themselves better. Right? Where am I not doing that with my own children to my fullest ability? Because if I can't do it here, then what am I doing? Quite honestly, right? So this is my own reflection for me. It's my job. It is my responsibility to see those places, become aware of those places where, yeah, I'm not being patient. How do I find my patience again? And since that's a relationship with my daughter that I would love to keep long term, right? Like my dream is, when they're older, everyone, we're all so individual. It's so funny. Um, Literally, like we're just, my whole family is like, yeah, your own individual direction. But if they come back in their 20s and in their 30s and they, I'm one of their best friends, that would be such a dream to me. I would love that. Where it's like, we want to be here because we want to be around you. That's what I want. That's what I strive for. And for them to fully love themselves in the process, right? All of that. And so, since this relationship is so important to me, it is then my responsibility to see clearly how we connect with each other and see where those dissonances are, where, however you decide to explore this with your spouse, with your kids, with your partner, whoever. For me, looking at her human design and versus my human design and seeing the crunchy bits in like visual form really does help me be able to ground into, okay, that's just how her energy works. This is just how my energy works. How can we then, it's not necessarily compromise. I don't, because I really actually don't like the word compromise. I don't like the energy of like everything's a little shittier for everyone. Like, why would we do that? How do we collaborate? How do we figure this out together? And in this particular relationship, I'm the mom, so it's on me more, and she's 11.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
You
She's
have
not
more, right. You're more conscious of what's going on right now.
right. Yeah, so it's on me when we're talking to adults. If I'm talking about my husband or talking about a business partner, then it's a little more equal responsibility.
Oh no, it is equal responsibility.
Yeah. for sure. So yeah, there's some nuance there, but I just wanted to give that example of like this is not a, you know, thought experiment. This is on the ground. How do we do this? Um, and maybe you can share a little bit about some of the client couples that we've worked with even recently, where again this is showing up a little bit.
Yeah, I think the most important thing to kind of also lay on this foundation is that human design as a tool, it's a tool, right? You can use it however you want. I think the biggest advantage is exactly what you said. It gives you a visual representation to show where things don't align. And even if you don't know anything about it quite yet, you can look at two people's charts and regardless if you know what anything means inside of it, you're like, "Oh yeah, those are two very different people." And one of the biggest advantages is as you grow into who you are and you grow into your awareness, it is recognizing that people are very different. And that once you start learning the mechanics of it, you can start to gain an appreciation for that difference versus blaming it. And I know that I've had that as a part of my own journey as with my children of like, we as parents have this concept that because our children are half of our DNA, that they're half like us. No, no, no. Go look at your chart. Go look at your children's chart. You'll see in a hot second that yes, you contributed your DNA, but that DNA does not express itself oftentimes even remotely in the same way. And as we get into this topic, another throughput is, what Hannah's talking about is that if you want something to be different, you're going to have to change both of you as partners. Again, now, depending on whatever the partnership is, if it's child to parent, you as a parent probably hold more of that responsibility than your children do, depending on their age. If it's adult to adult, then you both have, you both need to change, or you both have opportunity to change in order to see the other person differently. The other nuance there, the other throughput there is that you have to be willing to accept that that person is very different from you and that they are who they are versus who you want them to be. And that mutual give and take, that mutual cooperation is extremely important because for me, for as logical as I am, when I say logical, I don't necessarily mean mentally logical, although yes, that is how my brain is quote unquote designed when it comes to human design. When I say logical, I mean in the context of human design. Like I just see patterns, I get patterns. That's why human design resonates so well with me because it's just a system of patterns. And it it's it's just being able to look at the mechanics and say, "Oh, that's why this person drives me absolutely batshit crazy." And being able to have a little bit of tongue in cheek of that, of like, yeah, that energy doesn't rub well with mine, but I can look at that person and say, oh, I have an understanding of why they do it. And I think that's, when we think about our client work together, I think that's part of our purpose is to support each partner in not only understanding who they are, but also providing the quote unquote logical mechanics of how their partner's energy works. And recognizing that, hey, sometimes the rubs that you're experiencing are simply, quote unquote, easier said than done, simply because the mechanics just work very differently. They just work differently. And being able to accept how your energy works, even when you don't really like it, and accepting how somebody else's energy works, even when you don't really like it. And accepting that there will be times that the energy will never come together. And by come together, I mean, it will always rub.
Mm-hmm.
Thou, those are the places where understanding and cooperation are probably the most important.
Mhm. Yes, so well said. And I want to really emphasize here that this is in the context of, and the way I've put it so many times outside of the podcast, not here, but like outside of this, is that if this is a connection that you want to keep, that you want to be healthy, that you want to stay connected to this person for a long time, then this is what is required. If you don't want to be with this person, if you don't want to stay married, if you don't want to stay in partnership, if you don't want to ever talk to that person again, okay. Right? Like I'm not over here advocating for like stay miserable in your life. It's very much the opposite of like if you choose to stay in connection with another person, my heart doesn't understand why you would want to stay hurting with that other person. If you want to be with someone in any capacity, then why would you not want to also feel good in that relationship? Feel uplifted, feel supported, feel supportive, be excited about being with and around that person. And if there's no part of you that desires that, that's there's a whole other episode we could do about that, or like a deep dive that you can
Yeah.
do around that. Like,
Yeah.
um, but that's a very, that's a different question and conversation than if you want to stay in relationship with this person. And I want to also be very clear that this is not, we've said this before, but anytime we're talking about relationships, we are not talking about abusive relationships at all. This is not saying that, oh, this, like if there is actual, any physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial abuse happening in your partnership, that we are not saying like, oh, you guys both need to change a little. Like, well, fuck off with that. Like, no,
Yeah. Yes.
we're not, we're not talking about that. This is when we're talking to two people, again, who have a mutually agreed upon desire to stay in relationship, to see each other more clearly, to, say like our relationship, we got into our relationship originally because we enjoyed each other, because we love each other, because we work well together, because, whatever the origin story is, that we know our partnership is based on mutual love and respect. How do we come back to that?
Hmm.
That's really the premise that we are looking at. Do you have anything else to share from that side?
No, I think that's a great call out. Is that the caveat, the focus here is that relatively healthy relationship of two individuals who find themselves, whether you're at a crossroads, whether you're at a stalemate, whether you're at you use whatever euphemism or metaphor you want to say in this moment, that if you want your relationship to change because it's on fairly steady ground, there is no physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial abuse, this is what we're talking about. That's when this applies, that you both need to look not only at yourselves but at your relationship differently if you want something to change. And this is where we always come back to: a relationship is not two halves making a whole. It is two wholes making a whole nother entity. It's 1 + 1 = 3 in this instance. And I think one of the biggest traps that all humans get into when we think about relationships, particularly when we're very young, as we were talking about before, we won't go into this, but like there are certain aspects of how we approach relationships that get ingrained in us at a very young age when we're not conscious enough to know what the hell that actually really means. And we're all conditioned as humans to say, hey, when we get into a relationship, we become one. Uh, my third line experience says, fuck off. That's not how this really works, right? And I think we often, in my own experience, so listener, full disclosure, I am a recently divorced woman, right? So I've been in a relationship. I've seen what works. I've seen why it doesn't work. I've been through the whole gamut. And in whenever I am ready to enter into a new relationship, it will be approached from a very different lens of I am a full person in this relationship. You are a full person in this relationship partner. We are creating a whole nother energetic entity that requires a different level of intention and attention to make it work. And no, we are not coming together to make complete each other. Like, no, thank you. I'm fully complete as I am. You are fully complete as you are. Though behind the scenes, there is a responsibility to understand what is it that's going to be natural for me? What is it that's going to be natural for you? And oh, by the way, where do those things come together and where are they going to rub? Because where they're going to rub is going to be the places where we're constantly at each other. We're, you know, nitpicking or whatever the case may be. It's the rubbing points of your energy that are the sticking points of your relationship. And it is so simple that once you understand those things, then you can create very specific strategies for your energy as an individual and your energy as a partnership to figure out how to move through those things and to minimize the friction. Fun fact, the friction is not going away. The energetic friction will never go away. It goes back to what you talked about at the very beginning. With great knowledge comes great responsibility of your definition, same as your relationship. You know, we're Spider-Manning ourselves all over the place, you know, in celebration of the new Spider-Man movie coming out. And I'm a big geek and big fan, so I'm excited to see it. Anyway, but, and again, I know it sounds so simple and I can sit here and pontificate, you know, to the nth degree, but also understand, listener, I've been through the ringer of what it looks like to be in a relationship where the sticking points, the friction points are always there. And we weren't able to figure out how to move past or move through or move differently through them. And for various reasons, which we can get into if we want to. But, you know, it's just recognizing that every relationship, if you want to change it, you're going to have to do something different.
Mm-hmm. How long were you married with your ex-husband?
You're going to make me do math.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
No.
15 years? I think we were married for 15 years, 16, whenever by the end. 15 years.
Yeah. It's a long time.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of similarly, though we've never been divorced, but we've been through some pretty rough cycles.
Yeah.
Between, you know, with my husband, but we've been together for 25 years total. We've been married for 20. Um, and this work, I would say over the last, when was that? Almost fully 2 years ago now. We were, you know, different aspects were starting to shift before that as well. But really over the last 2 years, like doing this work of understanding myself more deeply, understanding his energy more deeply, him understanding himself. He's not into the human design piece, which is fine. But even with that, and this is another piece that we could even get into, right? It's like, okay, well, what if they're not going to do it the way that I want them to do it? Guess what? That's not how anything works. You don't
Spoiler
get to,
alert.
spoiler alert, you don't get to control everything that much. And I wanted to, like, I wanted to. I wanted him to understand. I wanted him to be as into it as I was. I wanted him to be like, oh my God, this is a revelation.
Yeah, right. Like, oh my God, you're a genius. Thank you for figuring this out.
Right? I wanted that. I wanted that so badly. Um, and at first, instead, he was like, what the hell is this? Like, are you kidding me with this right now? Like, it's based on your birth date and time and place. Like, have you lost your mind?
Yeah. Woo-hoo.
Yeah. And I was so hurt. I was so sad. And I just like went all the way into my, like, just like, all right, we're going to take that and we're just going to lock it behind a big wall. And I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm just not, I'm like, I have to protect myself from you because that hurt a lot. And it took probably another full year, I think, after that, until we had another breakthrough where we were able to talk about it, where he went through his own process of learning, finding what worked for him, the practices, the techniques, the getting to know himself deeply, because at the heart of it, that's what this is about.
Yes.
How do you learn to love and accept yourself more deeply? Because if you love yourself in all ways, it's so difficult for hate to live for anyone else if you truly actually love yourself. And so as he went through his own process, really drawn to Buddhist philosophies and some Stoic philosophies, but really more so on the Buddhist mindfulness side. And just, I mean, again, like to that point of our relationship has always been based on love, mutual respect, wanting to see the best in each other. And there were just years at different times where instead we were kind of bringing out the worst in each other. And this process of I now see myself fully. I see you, even if you're not into it, right? I can see where the friction might lie as he's doing his work, finding the things that work for him, that resonate for him, that help him come back to his center, that help him, be the, most kind, loving, patient version of himself as well. We came back to this conversation and he said, oh, like I shared with him how much it hurt for him to be so dismissive of human design and the way that I work with people and different things. And he recognized it. He like clocked it. I mean, he's like, I see what I did there. Like, I realize that I hurt you. And I realize that everything that you're doing is really in service of helping people, just wanting to help. Like, that's the core of it. Like, I see that your intentions are to help people and not to hurt them and not to manipulate them and not to, like, that doesn't exist in your, in your energy, right? Which it doesn't. And that was like, that moment was so healing.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, okay, yeah, we can start to see when those like friction points come up and learn how to let them go so much more easily. And I just wanted to kind of like, again, tap into that aspect too, because if you're listening to this, it's probably because you're at least somewhat knowledgeable of or interested in human design and building a business and being an entrepreneur and learning how to make money more effectively as yourself, right? All of those things are probably true if you're listening to this podcast. And your spouse or your partner might be none of those things. My husband is not an entrepreneur. He's amazing at his job, but he's not a business owner. He had a consulting firm on the side for a little bit, but again, it was different. He's not, like he's not into the human design piece. He's not, and when I tried to force, yeah, I'll say that, force those ideas onto him, that didn't help either.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and like, well, my person isn't going to care. They're not going to want to do it this way. Like, yep, I get it. Been hand raise, I know that very well. If though they are willing to meet you in some way, that's what matters. Even if you are the one that's like, okay, I'm gonna know myself. I'm gonna pull their chart and I'm gonna look at that and like understand their energy, even if it's just from your side. And they again choose their journey, as long as it's coming like you're moving in a direction together in order to know yourselves and each other better. That's the fundamental uh groundwork, I think.
Yes. And that wasn't my experience.
Right.
Um, I went down the same path of like, this is really important to me. This is things, it makes sense to me. It's just a new lens that I have on the world. And whether I'm being naive or not, I don't know. I never felt that I was forcing it by any means. I would introduce it. I would, just kind of talk, and particularly through the lens of our children, because our children are very different. Oh, good God in heaven, they're very different. And in the early days of our younger child, who is emotionally defined and who had a very tumultuous emotional roller coaster that we would find ourselves on, it wasn't until he was 7 or 8. So he'd gone through a first cycle of conditioning, and it wasn't until he was about 7 or 8, maybe 9, that we found human design. And just as I started to unravel some things, it was like, oh, well, that's simple to understand, right? So then it became more of a, okay, well, he's emotional. He needs to express it. And while, yes, that sometimes it's very difficult to sit there and listen to screaming and yelling and whatever for 90 minutes, like it's important for him to express it. Now, that doesn't mean he just gets to do whatever he wants. And, he doesn't, there are no, he has to have consideration for how a 90-minute screaming session could land for the rest of the family. Um, but, in trying to introduce those things, and it became well, no, he just needs to learn how to do something different. He needs to learn to, and it just happened to be, and listener, please understand that, like, I have a lot of care and compassion for my ex-husband, and by no means am I trying to tear him down by any means, right? We are all here on our own journey. He just wasn't ready to hear it. He wasn't ready to accept it. Wasn't ready to see beyond, this is what I see needs to be correct, so this is what our son needs to do to be correct. And we just had very different ways and very different methodologies of how we kind of came to that. And that was really just my experience, is that, in giving this and in trying to understand myself, there wasn't additional growth of, well, let me understand myself in a different way. It was kind of like, this is who I am, or this is, while those words were never spoken, those were the actions those were behaviors that were demonstrated. And so that was the impression. And oftentimes the, uh, the word I want to use, it would just be like, I would say something and it would be just kind of an immediate shutdown. And
Mhm.
so for those listeners out there who in Hannah's situation, you both grew in different ways and went through different methodologies, which is fantastic, right? I fully like that's such an amazing experience. Just so happens wasn't my experience, right? So for the listeners out there who maybe identify more on my side of the journey, my third line says, what does my third line say about what I learned? Only you can make the choice of the best path forward for you. And in those moments, to look very internally of, what is it that my energy is really telling me about myself and about this relationship? Is it worth looking at something different, coming at it from a different way, introducing yet another methodology that might be accepted? Or is your energy saying, is this relationship viable? And again, comes back to the point, if you want something different, you're going to have to try something different.
Yeah. Yes. And I think our two different experiences are both such good um, examples in different ways of like you said, like how like what are the different options that come about, and if someone is not willing to meet you on that path of like again knowing themselves better in order to like part of that is in order to okay you need to figure out what's your material and not spew it on our kids, right? Like not blaming anything on anyone, but like that's I've also had that um I have that realization all the time. Right? I actually had that realization recently of like my kids are in, 15, 13, 11. They're in phases that I actually went through some really hard things
Hmm.
in those age ranges. Like the stuff that no one wants to talk about and um just in general. We'll just leave it there. But so those were hard years for me. And I had a very important recognition recently that it was like some of the triggers, some of the impatience that I've been feeling, some of the, being triggered here and there was coming from, hey, that's actually me, my inner child, my inner 11-year-old, my inner 13-year-old coming up being triggered. And it doesn't have anything to do with them. And so I need to parent from my 41-year-old, the wise version of me that is here now, and not parent from my wounded 11-year-old. And that is again when we recognize that in ourselves, and when I shared that, my husband had a similar realization, right? Well, I'll give this one because I think this one is really a good example. He's the oldest, and we have, our oldest our oldest daughter, and then our youngest. Uh, she is she can tend to want to like stir the pot and like poke. Our youngest does, and a lot of times she will kind of like purposely poke at her older sister, who is 4 years older than her. And my husband had that experience of being the oldest and just like his brother just poking and poking and poking and poking at him. And it would make him so angry. He would be so furious. And he was having that same reaction to our youngest of like, just stop poking her. Stop it. You're the one who's being mean. It's just like, well, I don't know why she's yelling. I don't know why she's so mad. It was like, because you're poking. You're being the poker. And when I realized that I was doing this, I mentioned it, and I mentioned to him too. I was like, maybe that might be something that's happening is you're kind of projecting your older brother being poked by the younger brother and how furious that made you. And it's like, yeah, that's the thing that's happening. That because the energy, what we do know, our older two are on the autism spectrum. They're very capable, very extremely smart, very capable, but at the same time, right, they do have different they've had to learn things differently than other kids have. Our youngest is not on the autism spectrum. She she sees that she actually worries. She gets afraid of her older siblings being judged. She knows that everyone has their own quirks, right? She sees those quirks and she worries that other people will be mean to them. Other people won't accept them. And so a lot of times when she says, when she kind of like pokes or digs, it's in this energy of like, I just want her to be safe. I want other people to like her. I don't want her to be judged. So even that energy of what feels annoying or what can, and sometimes it is because they're siblings and they're just annoy each other. But we know for a fact because she has she has shared it very clearly, and she has been very worried about it, and she's cried about it, that she worries about her older siblings, that they're not going to be okay, that they're, that they're gonna go out into the world, and then they're not going to be safe, so they need to stay close, right? That is the underpinning of how she really feels, and that is the different energy
Yes.
than what was had in his household growing up. And then we don't know that for sure either, right? Like, he's never really asked his younger brother, like, why? Um, but even just to pull that projection, or call the projection for what it was, like, hey, you're responding from the hurt, your hurt 13-year-old that was just like, just stop, rather than your 42-year-old self that knows how much our youngest loves her older sister and worries about her.
Yeah.
So different.
Yeah. And when we're talking specifically about the parent-child relationship, those are the two aspects of like understanding your own energy, understanding your child's energy, but understanding your wounds as a parent. And I think we millennials, or we geriatric millennials, which is what you and I are.
Yeah.
Ugh. I'm like, I'd rather
Heavy
just be like, could I just be like really young Gen X as opposed to a geriatric millennial? It's fine. Whatever. Um, we are of the generation. I mean, go online, and whether it's exacerbated or whatever, we've made it a thing for ourselves. Like, we are very conscious of our wounds as children. And when I say wounds, I mean, we've all been conditioned, and we all look back and we're like, oh, yeah. I see where my parents really fucked that one up, right? Trying without blame. Sometimes there is blame.
Sometimes you can't help it, but
We're
yes,
only human, right?
we
But
don't know. We don't know.
right. But I think as parents, we're battling those two things right now. It's like, those of us who have made the choice to be very conscious of our energy, to be very conscious of our children's energy. Where do those two things rub? But also healing ourselves and healing those wounds. And I tell my kids that all the time. Like, we've talked about this before. You are not a yeller. Yep. 100% am. I'm sure every listener on this podcast can determine, yeah, she probably yells when she's angry. I do. And there are moments when I will, because both my sons are emotionally defined on two different waves, fun for me, I can get very heated. And then I'll be like, okay, guys, I'm going to need to leave the room for just a hot second before I come back out here. And I'll come back out and, I'll apologize for whatever it is that I said or did or how it came off. And I have had the conversation with my children of like, boys, can you find some grace for me in this moment? I have uncovered things about myself growing up that I am trying to work through. And I realize that sometimes when you to do something unbeknownst to either of you, that it's going to poke something in me, I'm still working through not immediately reacting to that thing. And I'll sit and I'll have a conversation and say, okay, I'm just going to give you a little context, because I know if I give you the whole story, I'm going to bore you to tears because you're 15 and 12 and you have, the attention span of a fruit fly. But, here's kind of the context. Here's where I fucked up. I'm totally sorry. I'm asking for your grace in this moment. And as my children get older, so with my 15-year-old specifically, I'm now having conversations with him of, sweetheart, you also have to start recognizing that I am my own person. And that there are going to be things that you ask me or want me to do or think I quote unquote should do simply because I'm mom. And those things go against either my own principles, my own energy. And you and I are now entering into a realm of our relationship where it is almost adult. And that you've got to have room for me to flex and say no and tell you, nope, that's a boundary as your mother I'm not crossing simply because you think I should because I'm mom. And by boundary, I mean like, nothing inappropriate. I simply mean like, no, I'm not just gonna, I can't even, there are certain things I want to keep private for him, but like, no, I'm not just going to do that because you think I should because I'm mom and, if I want mom to do it, she's going to do it. No, sorry, sweetheart. Like you and now are now entering into a realm where the expectation is that you've got to have a little bit of cooperation for me. Whereas like growing up, it was 90% me coming to you and 10% you coming to me. For the last couple of years, it's been like 75-25. We're getting closer to 60-40, right? So we're inching along and it's just an interesting dynamic as parents is we're working on both things. We're trying to meet our children where they are. We're trying to heal ourselves, but as our children get older, we're now putting them in a position to come to a little bit more to the table. And that it's a lot. It's a lot to manage. It can be very emotionally overwhelming sometimes. And again, if you want a relationship to change, you've got to do something different. And I'm big on accountability. You know that. I'm sure listeners know that. And like I'm raising adults. I'm not raising children. So like I need you to meet me almost halfway now.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The goal being that you have functioning, conscientious adults
Yes.
in the end. Right.
Paying attention to the difference in their energy too, right?
Yeah.
I'm very conscious of this. Like I was actually thinking about this with a very, very dear friend of mine too. Again, this is like looking when you know someone else's energy, you have the ability, one, to be more patient, and two, to filter back to them a reflection of their energy. So this example is, listener, we've gone over this 500,000 times. I have a completely open ego center, right? If you pause, take your chart. It's the little teeny triangle, like triangle to the middle right of your chart, right? My dear friend has, hers is fully defined, but unconsciously, but it's still defined, right? So whereas mine is completely open, I am like ego less. It's kind of like, sure, whatever the bargain is whatever the bargain is. And I'll figure it out as I go along. Or in my experience, I won't figure it out until I'm well into it, giving way too much of myself. I'm like, yeah, this isn't working. Whereas because hers is defined, she was telling me about this situation where she has the ability, she's a great networker. She builds phenomenal relationships and she can just make inroads with she's a 5-1. So she makes inroads with literally everybody. Right. And she had the opportunity to have this engagement where if she brought this entity into the relationship that she's currently working on, it could be huge for her client. And so she was having the conversation with me of like, well, I've got this here. And I'm thinking if I can bring it into the relationship, then I can get X out of it. Right. That is her defined ego heart, her defined ego / heart center of like, this is a bargain. I have something, I'm bringing it to the relationship. You give me something. Right. And if I didn't know about human design, my lean is like, oh my God, I could never think of that, right? It would just be like, no, I have this thing, just have it, right? Without the, well, I could ask for something in return, right?
Yeah.
So when we think about knowing someone else's design, if I didn't know it, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, I would have given her advice of like, well, why are you thinking to get something out of it? Like that just seems, that seems presumptive. That seems like over the top. And I sat there and I was like, oh, that's why that's uncomfortable for me, is because that's just not in my purview. It's not a part of my energy. But I sat there and I was like so fascinated. I was like, oh my God, I could learn something from this.
Mm-hmm.
And so, giving her advice of how she can utilize that energy versus why would you ever think of doing something like that?
Yeah. Or even saying, oh, I would never.
Right.
Right. Like that's not helpful.
Right. And but I'm sitting there like, oh my God, what could I learn from this conversation? How might I be able to use this, knowing this is not my energy, but presuming that if I'm getting into a situation, I have the opportunity to ask for something in return if I ever found myself in this similar situation. And that's where I think the beauty of understanding someone else's relationship and accepting them for who they are versus either who you want them to be or who you are, and you're just projecting that onto them. Your conversations change. Your connections to each other change. Again, old Lauren, maybe like 5 years ago, would have been like, Jesus, why are you thinking about doing that? Like, that just seems really over the top. Where I'm current Lauren is like, well, hell yeah, let me take notes. Let me write that down for the future. Like, let me see if I can make that work for myself. Like, that's the beauty of understanding your own energy, understanding someone else's energy, and not having resentment or judgment for it being different or being what you perceive to be over the top simply because you don't have that energy. You could never relate to what that feels like.
Mhm. Mm. That's such a good example of, again, and that's in a friendship,
Yes.
right? So again, a relationship that you want to keep, right? Like, oh, I want to keep being friends with this person. Yeah. Let's understand each other better.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Mm.
imagine if I had been like, I would never do that. Like, uh, how that can be received of like, oh, was she judging me because I was going to ask for it?
Right. Which with your other channels, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. Old Lauren, yeah, 100%.
That channel of judgment just shooting out.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, gets me in
yeah.
trouble. And then my 3 lines of pessimist, like, are you sure it's going to work?
Right. Right. Well, and it's the thing I kind of wanted to land on, and I realized we didn't actually talk about your relationship with money in the same way. So next time, can you write that down?
Yes, always. I always take the notes.
Not okay. Um,
That's what I want. It's what 1 threes do. We take notes.
Note takers.
Yeah.
I'm a 6'2". I don't like either.
You? Nope, nope, not happening.
People have tried to say, "Can you be the secretary?" before. Like, God, no.
I can see you being like, absolutely fuck no.
Ugh. Ew. Will you be the treasurer? Oh, the treasurer takes 1,000 notes. No,
No.
no. Anyway, so we'll talk about the money relationship next time, because that also doesn't. It has aspects of your human design in it and understanding yourself, but it's not this like interpersonal necessarily that we're talking about this time. And as in this last few minutes here, I did want to bring in like kind of an example from a case study that we're working with a few different couples right now, and one of them, they are actually what we said at the beginning. Like if you look at your chart and your partner's chart, spouse, relationship, business partner, whatever, and you see them and they're very different, you're like, oh God, those are so different. Well, what's even more fascinating, I think, is when they're very similar. And that can be even harder because um it's like you have a similar, again, when you come into a room, you both come into the room and light up the same buttons. And so that's a big piece with the one couple that we're working with right now who are both emotional manifesting generators. Lots of other differences, right? Different profile lines. One's a 2-4, one's a 4-6,
6-3.
6-3. Very different. Other differences as well. But like when you look at their charts, if you just look at their charts together, it's like, wow, those are very similar. And the pieces where their definition is the same also is not necessarily, it doesn't act the same way. So the one partner, we'll just use the channel of charisma as an example. the 34-20. So from the sacral, the second square from the bottom on the chart up to the throat, gate 34 to gate 20. They both have this gate. One partner has it fully conscious, so it's all black. The other partner has it fully unconscious, so it's all red. And seeing how that the one who has it fully conscious knows it about themselves. It's a very, like, it's a powerful channel.
Yes.
It is it's the channel that makes a pure manifesting generator. I also have this channel. I have it fully conscious and aspects of, no, that one is just fully conscious. My channel of charisma. So I understand it. I understand it very well. The partner who has it fully unconscious does not see it about themselves. They see it in their partner who has it fully consciously expressed and doesn't understand that they have that same energy, but because it's unconscious, it's hard to tap into how it actually feels. And so what happens with that? And on the emotional side, they're both emotionally defined, but they're defined from different channels.
In different waves.
So it carries a different emotional wave, a different way. Another way to say that, the emotional authority expresses itself differently for each of them. The emotional, literally it's the emotional wave, but it's like think about different wave, like a tidal wave versus, kind of like gentle waves versus consistent waves versus, crazy waves that crash. That's what the different emotional waves are like, and they have very different ones. And so even the way that their emotions express is different, even though they're both emotionally defined. And so we get this experience of almost feeling like they're stepping on each other all the time. And they don't know how to get out of each other's way and to like enough, right? It's like they're so entwined sometimes that it's hard to like pull it apart and say, you actually have very similar energies. You need to support each other kind of in the same way. It just feels like what you're conscious of and unconscious of are opposite. So what do you have to say about that? Because you have a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's a classic example of any relationship that while you may be similar, how it expresses is so different depending on what else is in your chart. And they have very, like, once you move past some of those similarities, they do have different charts. And this is a good example of a 1 + 1 = 3. And that their needs, while similar, are very different because their energy expresses very different. And to support one another in a way that might feel uncomfortable at first. Recognizing that they're coming at it from their energy and they have to allow the other one to do the same without placing blame for not being the actual same or not being who they want the other person to be. And, what's really interesting is that in my experience, and Hannah, I think in yours too, when we supported clients separately, was we tended to see somebody who was emotional and somebody who was unemotional, right? It's just a great attraction, right? Those of us who are unemotional, we love that emotional juiciness. Not when we're in it, but we'd like to have it. And it is interesting to see two emotional people married or together, right? And have very different emotional waves. Because those emotional waves do not operate the same way, nor are they experiencing their highs and lows the same way whenever they experience them. And they're not experiencing likely those highs and lows at the same time. And what I've learned in my own experience is that, those of us who are unemotional defined or not emotionally defined, we tend to have an emotional awareness and emotional intelligence about other people's emotions, being able to read it. Those who are emotional tend to have very emotional intelligence about their own emotions. And so in this particular instance of part of like being themselves and understanding themselves is understanding those emotional waves, being very intelligent about their own waves and recognizing, oh, when I'm on a low, maybe I go do X. Or maybe when I recognize I'm on a low, maybe I keep my mouth shut. Maybe I don't say the thing that I feel like I want to say, but I find a way to express it somewhere else. And, for this beautiful couple specifically is to recognize that those waves they're going to be operating low and high at different times. And this would be advice for anybody who is emotionally defined. When you're in an emotional high or low, that likely is not your full truth.
Right.
So what you may say, what you may express, what you may actually act may not necessarily be the full truth of this particular situation. So whether you say something in a really high high or say something in a really low low, yes, it may be a truth for that moment, but it's probably not your full truth. And so for those who are emotionally defined is recognizing, like, giving yourself space to feel the full situation, particularly when you're in a partnership, specifically a marriage, and having huge awareness that your partner is also emotionally defined, and having grace for those ups and downs and what may come out in that moment, and remembering it's not a full truth.
Yes. Yeah. When we were talking about this the other day, actually, what kind of settled for me was that like there needs to be space to say it, it does need to be expressed, right? Like
Mhm.
it's important. And the highs and the lows, it paints the picture for your authority, right? So we don't ignore the highs, we don't ignore the lows. It's information that is needed to help sh- give you the full context for the decision. But to your point, it's like, this is how I feel right now. This is what's coming up for me right now. This is what feels true in this moment. Right. And recognizing again, if you're at a very low point in your wave or, maybe coming up a little or a very high point, this is what's true for me right now. Guess what you need to do? You need to take a break, whether that's a couple, 20 minutes, a couple hours, next day, come back. Okay, let's come back to this topic. What's true for you now in this moment? So we talked about this on Friday. I was not feeling good about it. I shared how I was feeling in that low moment. Now I've actually been able to sleep on it. It's Saturday. I feel a little bit less emotionally charged around it. Here's how I feel right now. Here's what's true in this moment 24 hours later. You have to give yourself time. That's when emotional authority is, um, God, yeah, especially for two people with emotional authority trying to come to a decision together on something that it affects both of you,
Yeah.
right? There are some decisions where it's like, okay, one partner is going to lead that part. This person, like we can divvy up. That's great too. Um, but if it's something that you have to decide together that affects both of you equally, um, you got to make space for this is what's true for me on Friday. Okay, we're going to come back. This is what's true for me Friday night. We're going to come back. This is what's true for me on Saturday. You have to come back to it. You can't have a bad conversation in your lows, where you say things at the low of your wave and then just never revisit it. That is cancer for a relationship that will metastasize. It's the resentment that's going to grow and grow and grow because it's like the blow up in the wave at the bottom. You say the things that are at the bottom of the wave and then you leave it and never come back to it. And that hurts. Gotta come back when you're in a more neutral part. Just revisit it. You gotta keep talking.
Right. Because every authority always has to be brought back to type. So as manifesting generators, responding to that decision point or breaking point or whatever the case may be of coming back to it, responding to it again once you're more clear and until you both gain clarity and recognizing, again, accepting you may not gain clarity at the same time. And if you want something to be different, you have to do something differently. And if the something different is we've got to keep coming back to this until we've gained clarity respectively and as a partnership, then that's what we're going to continue to do, despite the fact it may be really uncomfortable.
Right. Right. And I think that's such a good example to actually like wrap up with, because you just hit the nail on the head there, was that's the something different, right? That honors both of their design. It's, hey, we've been in this pattern of, we have the conversation in the low when we're both upset. We say the things in the low that maybe hurt, that we don't mean fully, or we don't even know that that's what's going to come out of our mouths. And then we just leave it. That's been the pattern. Doing that over and over you keep getting what you have. This is when we say you got to make a change, you have to choose something different. The awareness then is, hey, we have two different emotional waves. We're both emotionally defined. We have two different kinds of emotional waves. Awareness. Great. We know that. What else is the awareness? Emotional authority always needs time. There is no clarity in the now. Your truth in this moment is only your truth in this moment. It is only a piece of the full truth. Awareness, emotional authority awareness, right? What is our other awareness? We're two humans and we want to figure out how to do this better. Great. Acceptance. What's the acceptance piece? We're different. I accept. I feel, and you can feel acceptance also comes with tears. It comes with recognition. It comes with, having to process maybe the times you showed up not so great, the times that you were hurt by how someone else showed up. That's all the acceptance, to accept that, yeah, hey, we have been hurting each other for a long time. And that hurts to acknowledge. It hurts to acknowledge when you've hurt someone else too. Right? That sucks. Sometimes even more than like when you've been hurt, when you recognize that you've hurt someone you love.
Yes.
Ugh, that hurt.
Yes.
And that's part of acceptance. Right? It's like, I accept. When my husband said, hey, I realized that was mean. The way that I responded to you about human design was mean. That was snarky. I'm sorry. Like, oh my God, I cried so hard. Right? Acceptance that you maybe have hurt someone that you love in some way. The aligned action, the new action that you get to try together. We're even if we have a conversation in the low, even if we say things in the low, We're going to come back. That can be just one step. We're going to come back. Emotional authorities. It's so interesting because I've had this, not this exact same conversation. Everyone's different, but a version of this conversation with emotional authorities often, actually. Like they don't want to come back to it. Like I already felt that. I don't want to go. I don't want to open it up again. Like, well, well, that's not how resolution happens.
Right. And and coming back to it also helps inform the wave. That's how you become emotionally intelligent about your wave, so that as you grow into moving forward, you recognize, oh, I'm at the bottom, or oh, I'm at the top. Right? That's how you build emotional intelligence. And it's really funny you say that, because like as emotionally undefined, I'm like, no, 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 let's go back. Let's just get it all out. Just make sure we've processed it, which is very ironic.
Yeah, right? 'Cause I'm the same way. I'm like, I know that that's not resolved, and I feel it, and I hate it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So, listener, are you emotionally defined or undefined, and which one of those do you identify with?
Hmm.
I do some market research because I would love to know if other people feel that same way, other sacral authorities, right? Like feeling, because we're so sensitive to feeling the emotional disturbance in others.
Yes.
When we are, like Lauren and I both are emotionally undefined in our solar plexus, so sensitive to it. Where that emotional authority, emotionally defined, it's like, I already, like, yeah, I did that. I'm done. Like, well, I'm not done because I still feel that there's something going on. I feel like you're lying, but
Yeah. You don't know
anyway,
what's going on. I feel it. You may not,
right,
but I do.
right. And so, yes, again, that awareness, acceptance, that aligned action. You don't have to change. I hope that was very clear. You're not changing who you are.
No, no, no.
We're not,
I'm never a proponent of that.
right? Like, no, it's not you need to change. It's you need to change your approach to the situation to actually be in better alignment with who you already are and have grace and compassion and acceptance of who your partner is as well.
Yeah. It's literally changing the relationship with the energy.
Yes. Yeah. We want you to accept who you are even more. I want you to be even more of who you are and accept and love the definition that you came into this life with even more.
Yes. And that could mean for a hot second that the relationship experiences tension. That
Yes.
is, both of you fully accept who you are. You're accepting your energy and recognizing that as you do that, as you pull away from the conditioning that existed in you and the relationship may experience a little bit more tension. As you change your relationship with the energy of the partnership, and you approach yourself and the energy of your partner differently, that's when you can relieve the tension, because you're deconditioning not just yourself, you're deconditioning the experience of the partnership.
Oof, that's good. Yeah. Okay. We could go on.
I know.
We're- we could keep going and going and going. And this is not a 4-hour podcast. Um, maybe one day.
It could be. We could talk forever. So there is that.
Yes. Anyway, so hopefully, hopefully there were a lot of nuggets in there um, to be helpful. And I've gotten this feedback a couple of times, so I want to just say it. I think it's so funny. I've had people say, "Oh, that was really specific about this one thing." So it didn't apply to me because it was really about just this one thing. I'm like, okay, I can see that, and also the if you're not emotionally defined, I swear to you, you are in connection with people who you care about who are.
Yes. Oh, one.
50% of the population is emotionally defined. So, I mean, it would be, it's not that it's impossible, but it would be super weird if you don't know anyone that you actually care about who is not emotionally
No, it is
defined.
impossible. I'm gonna say it's impossible.
Lauren says it's impossible. But even to that point of, even if we're not talking specifically about you, we try to generalize the information enough to where it's universalize it at least in some way, so
Yes.
that there's something for you to be able to dig your teeth into, or go into your own chart and just kind of poke around and see what could resonate for you from that. So I just wanted to put that out there as well because I thought it was cute. Um, and a good point, right? Like there are people who are like, well, it has to be specifically about me or I'm not making any conclusions. I'm sure there's as a part of the design.
Those with
But
the defined head, not taking
uh,
anything and then
maybe that's it. That's hilarious. That's not me. I'm undefined crown and Ajna. Give me all the ideas. I will just kind of like feel all of them. It's great. Anyway, this was it's such an important topic. It's such an important conversation. I'm so glad we had time to talk through it and that we wrote down that we're going to talk about this same energy with money
yes.
next time because it's so important. It's so similar and yet, it's its own thing. So we're gonna talk about that next time. Go check us out on Substack. Go say hi. Expansive CEO on Substack. If you are in the wave of like, no, I actually really need to talk to you about some specific money stuff, go ahead, head over to X squared, X numeral 2 wealthplanning.com, and see what we offer there and the pathways and transformation to connect as there as well. Yeah, that's all I got. Anything else, Lauren, from you?
No, this was a great conversation. So many nuggets that I'm just like already like jonesing to write down myself.
All right. Go check it out. This will also be on Substack eventually. Conversation. So you can digest it in a different way, right? We've got auditory, we're going to put it in writing so that we can digest it differently um, and kind of hit all the ways that people process.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for being here. We will see you next time.
Hey, friends.